open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. The bells are not to ring, they make our spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
Hey, OralComm 1 students out there in COVID-19 land. Yes, we are still sheltering in place. It is so good to see you all. I am celebrating the holidays, as you can see. Well, sort of. While we're sheltering in place, we can at least have a little fun, can't we? I'm here today to talk to you about the next speech you're going to write. Now, normally, folks, when we are in school, you would have a partner to help you write this speech. So I've cut down on some of the requirements for this speech. But I want you to know that it's the best speech of the year. Kids come back to me, over and over again. They say, Miss Starr, this one was so much fun. Because usually what happens is kids dress up in costume, like you can see me today. I'm in my holiday sweater and my holiday clothes. And they get to bring in props. You can see behind me, I have lots of props with me. And they even bring in food and we share in the knowledge of a fun holiday. So what are you going to be doing? Well, go to your lesson plans and click on the link to get to the directions. And let's read those through first, okay? The basic idea here, folks, is that you are going to write a speech, if you look at number 1, explaining the history and the significance of a holiday, a celebration, some event that happens from somewhere in the world. You are going to research and organize and then talk about this holiday in just a couple of short weeks. Number 2, your goal is to give really clear information, but in a tone that reflects what the holiday is. So you can see I'm dressed in, what would this holiday be? Christmas gear, right? So I am here kind of celebrating with my jolly hat, but with just a quick presto changeo, minor prop change, I can change the tone completely, and I can be all about St. Patrick's Day, right? So no more Christmas holiday spirit for me. No. Now I'm on to St. Patrick's Day. So let's look at number 3. You're going to create an awesome visual aid. This is the best part about this speech. First semester OralComm, I've been trying to emphasize to you speech after speech after speech, how important it is to have a powerful visual aid that you can show your audience. It's going to drive home your point with lots of cool visuals. Okay, so we're going to look at a couple of samples in a minute. Number 4, now that you are doing this on your speech all by your lonesome, I have cut down the time limit for this speech. It's only going to be 6 to 8 minutes, okay? But I will be timing you for this, and I will cut down points if you can't make at least 6 minutes of information. And guys, trust me, I cannot tell you how easy this is. Now, for your speech, you do not have to create a formal outline. And you do not have to make note cards because you are going to be doing this speech from home. So it's completely fine if you want to type out the entire speech. You could have all of your words all ready to go. The most important thing besides your information, though, is that visual aid. You have to have a minimum of 20 slides, guys. 10 plus 10, 20 slides, okay? We're going to look at these samples. Please look at the directions with me, though, on it. Each slide must have a headline that matches your outline. You're not writing an outline, but it's the order that you're giving your speech. Bullet points, but not with full sentences or paragraphs for you to read during your speech. So I don't want you copying and pasting information, but I should see valuable information on each slide. Those samples are going to help us out. The other thing is that if you would like to on that day, dress in costume. I'm going to give extra credit for anybody that does, and if you bring some props. Now, I would normally require this. In fact, I wouldn't even let you get up to present your speech if you and your partner were not ready. So I want to make sure that you know that that's going to be extra credit this time. Now, practice, do a great job. At the bottom of the directions are all of the holidays. So I'm going to give you a moment to look these holidays over while I just step off to the side for just a moment. Oh, look at all those holidays. Look at those holidays. What holiday will you choose? What could it possibly be? What's it going to be, folks? What sounds interesting to you? Would you like to do Walpurgis? How about the Hajj? How about Hanukkah? Do you know anything about that? Oh, hey, I'm back. Now we're celebrating Halloween. Ho, ho, scary Halloween. And we're here with my friend Fatso right in the background. He's joining us today. And some of my props that I've brought along, little skeleton, little tiny little jack-o'-lantern that you can put your candies in, right? So which one of these holidays do you want to research? Maybe it's Kwanzaa, perhaps it's Cinco de Mayo. Maybe it's something that you're familiar with, but you want to learn a little bit more about it, like Thanksgiving. Now, folks, every time I have an opportunity to talk to students about these holidays, I know that there are kids that are immediately, you gravitate toward the holiday that you think you already know about. Like you go, oh, Easter, we just celebrated Easter. I already know all about it. So I'm going to jump on that one. But I'm going to encourage you that when you fill out the Google form of your choices, your top 5 choices, that you try to pick something that you would not normally know anything about. Okay, so it could be something that's going to be fresh and brand new and really cool to you. All right, so those are all of your holidays. I want you to look through those carefully and make a choice. So what happens after you've picked 5 that you think could be pretty great? Well, I want you to fill out the Google form. The Google form is linked to your lesson plans, and it's asking you to put your first and last name, and then it's going to ask you to list your 5 in the order that you would prefer. Okay, so if your top choice is the running of the bulls, put that as number 1. If your second choice is something like Oktoberfest, well, by goodness, then you choose that, okay, for number 2. But I'm going to go in the order that you chose. But if someone has picked, let's say Oktoberfest before you, well, then I have to go down to your next choice, okay? So I'll be letting you know what speech you're approved for, but you've got to fill out the Google form, okay? Now, let's talk a little bit about how we're going to research, and then I'm going to use a couple of samples. On Google Classroom, you can see that there's a set of research questions. You need to read these directions with me very carefully because these are essential to you understanding how to research. First of all, because you don't have a partner working with you, you don't have to use 2 different colored fonts. Just choose a font and a color that strikes your interest, but make sure I can read it. Number 2, be sure that when you do the research that you put the words, the words that you find, like if you get out on Wikipedia or if you find something on history.com, that you put it in your own words. That's called paraphrasing. All of you out there, I know, have done research, so you already know what this means. Then, number 3, after you have paraphrased some information, you're going to write the website where you found this little gem of info, and then you're going to link it to the source. So let's just click here. This holiday is called Hina Matsuri, and it's a Japanese doll festival. It's actually pretty cool. And I'm going to click on this, and you can see that it's not only information about the doll festival, but it's also got pictures about it. It tells about the history of it and all of that good stuff. So I want you to link so that way we know that you got this information from legitimate sources. It's easy to do. Finally, this year I have for spring 2020, I've cut down on the 12 sources you normally would have to go find, and I've cut it down to 6 minimum sources. So I'm going to show you how you can do that. You can use Gale. That should be your first go-to because you're going to be able to use encyclopedias and magazine articles or anything at all. And then you can also try the online Encyclopedia Britannica, but I think that that's been blocked in the past. You don't have to worry about books. But of course, then the World Wide Web, you're going to go out there and try to search up this information. But be careful because I have a little sample. You can see it's about the Pacific Northwest tree octopus. I'm sure you guys have seen this fake website before, right? So it just means be careful because you want your information to be accurate. So what kinds of questions are we going to be answering? Let's look. Number one, who or what is even being celebrated? Explain why people have this holiday, just as a general overview. Like, what's the purpose of it? So usually in Gale, you're going to find this answer in the very first paragraph where it says, Oktoberfest is an annual festival in Germany that takes place on blah, blah date, and it is to celebrate the anniversary of a wedding and blah, blah, and people often assemble for a large festival and a carnival, and they eat sausages and they drink beer, and it kind of just gives you an overview. Okay, so it gives you quite a bit just in the first paragraph. That's in Gale. You're going to find good sources. 2, then I need to know about the history of this holiday. How did this event come to be? Sometimes we are fooled into thinking a certain holiday came to be because we've been told this in grade school, and it turns out it's not really a fact, or we know a little bit about it, like Thanksgiving I'm thinking of, but we aren't quite clear on the details. So you're going to give the history of it and make sure you clarify this point by point, step by step in the history, okay? And then you tell exactly when this holiday takes place. For example, for Halloween, everybody out there knows, what day do we celebrate Halloween? That's right, October 31st. Everybody out there knew that, just like we know that we celebrate Christmas on December 25th, right? But some holidays actually change date depending on either a lunar calendar or it could be a biblical calendar. And that's what makes some of these holidays kind of fun. Some holidays always have to fall on a certain day of the week, like Thanksgiving. And other holidays are just based on something very specific to the calendar. It's always like Valentine's Day, always February 14th, whether that's a Saturday or a Tuesday, okay? So number 5, where does this holiday take place in the world? If it occurs in different places in different countries, tell about that and whether it's significant in how the event is celebrated. So Christmas, it's maybe different here in the United States how it's celebrated than how it's celebrated in Great Britain or even Jamaica. We've found some cool information on that. Does your holiday transcend a certain place and time? In other words, does it have a broad significance to many people globally? Again, I'm thinking about holidays like Christmas, maybe not necessarily Thanksgiving, or maybe not like the running of the bulls. No, nobody in America does that. Excuse me. Number 6, tell what kind of event this is. Is it lighthearted or is it somber? Are some parts of it serious? If you think about Easter, guys, Easter has a kind of a dual feeling. Some of it is a little bit lighthearted for the kids, and some of it's very serious, right? For people that go to church and they're thinking about the rebirth of Christ. So give reasons about how you can tell what the tone of the event is. Explain that to us. And then number 7 usually trips kids up. So the question is asking, what's the culture of the people like? In other words, the people that celebrate it, like the Germans or the Spanish or the English, wherever your holiday is taking place. For example, in Japan, the Hina Matsuri festival, the doll festival I mentioned a few minutes ago, the culture of the people it really does help explain why they have this celebration, because it's a celebration of honor and of respect. And the Japanese people have a great respect for tradition. So that is why they have this holiday. See, and then think about Americans. What kind of people are we? Why would we have a 4th of July or Independence Day holiday? So maybe you want to consider that. Number 7, this is the best part of the speech. How is your holiday celebrated? I mean, what do we do that's fun? How do people decorate? What kinds of foods do people eat? What kinds of special clothing do they wear? Where are the special places that they will go, and special things they say? So, around the holidays, we usually say Happy Holidays or Merry Christmas. And on Happy Halloween, Happy Halloween, but we also say things like trick or treat, right? So we say special things. In other holidays, there are, in fact, special poems that are read or songs that are sung, okay? I'm thinking again of Christmas. So you'll answer those questions a little bit at a time using Gale again and research. You're going to find everything in Gale, by the way. Then number 9 is there anything that's new that you can tell the audience that, they wouldn't normally know? For example, how many pounds of turkey are eaten every year at Thanksgiving? Or how many gallons of beer do people drink at Oktoberfest? How many thousands of pounds of sausages do they eat? How about candy at Halloween? How about the number of jack-o'-lanterns, pumpkins that are turned into jack-o'-lanterns? How many thousands of rolls of Christmas paper wrap? You're going to find statistics, okay? So that's kind of fun. Number 9 is for some little known facts. See if you can find quotes by famous people like a leader or a poet or a songwriter, actors that have talked about your holiday. And that's always fun to add in. And then you want to be sure that you explain why the holiday is meaningful to people, what they are really attracted to. And 12, how is the holiday different for someone that's older like me, an adult, compared to a child? Does your holiday have a difference? Like for Easter, I'm thinking about holidays like that. So explain the differences in what adults do and how they celebrate it. And then you really want to kind of drive this home with how is it going to be significant to your audience? Because if you end up choosing a holiday that's so different that a lot of people don't know about, like Bastille Day in France, how can you make them understand what the holiday means to people? So 14, when it asks, does this holiday have any special significance in your life? More or less you can tell yes or no, because some of these holidays you don't even know about. So you might even say, I don't celebrate Kwanzaa, but I have found how cool it is and why people celebrate it, that kind of thing. Okay, so that's it for your research. Now, before we wrap up, I want you to note that there is a rubric that I'll use that mainly I'm going to focus on, not eye contact and all that stuff, but it's going to be based on if you've covered those questions in the research. That's why you have a couple of weeks to do the research, okay? Now let's buzz through a couple of our visual aids. This first one is about Memorial Day. So I'm going to make this full screen. I'm going to show you. And this is one that I'm not really going to let people, well, we better not go full screen. I'm not going to let people research this one because I already have a full visual aid that I'm using as my sample. But they have, notice, first of all, it's very picture heavy. That's what your visual aid needs to be. Lots of cool pictures that fit the holiday. So the title says Memorial Day. It's got the name of the two partners. Of course, it's just you on this one. The next one, it explains what's the difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day, because a lot of people think they're the same thing. Notice too that the font is large enough that if you were to present full screen, and I'll show it here, the font is nice and large. Does everybody see that? And it's some short phrases. So I don't want you to copy and paste anything on there. It's got short phrases like honors the fallen soldiers, ones who died in combat or wounds from battle. It was once known as Decoration Day. Okay, so there's a difference between that and Veterans Day. Then they move on to a next portion of their speech, which is their introduction. And they've got a few words that they use as way of an introduction. Both of these girls that did the speech, it turns out that they both went into the military, that they both had boyfriends in the military at the time, and their families were in the military. So they had a very strong reason to research this one. Then you go into the history. Notice that they've got a few bullet points on this, and it says it dates back to the Civil War, and it tells when the Civil War was, and a little bit of information. Then it tells where it was celebrated first, and it says Waterloo, New York, the original birthplace, and it even gives a little information and a nice map. So good for those girls. They were really going great with this Memorial Day visual aid. Then it goes on to give a little bit more history. You can see that there's some pictures. Then it describes some of the symbols. That's important for you. Are there any symbols that represent your holiday, things that people would recognize or maybe they don't know about? So like a witch's hat might be sort of symbolic, right, for this holiday. And it says here the red poppy and the American flag are both symbols of Memorial Day. So let's move on. What happens on Memorial Day? Parades are very popular. People go to museums, okay, and it tells about one of the museums. And then it goes on to how does each branch member remember fallen soldiers? And then it goes on very specifically, and it says every branch has a unique way of remembering a soldier. And there's a table of a fallen soldier. So that's really good visuals. Although I would have increased the size of those pictures just a smidge. And again, it's going on to how does each branch member remember? Then our next slide is where is Memorial Day celebrated? Well, it's celebrated all over the world. In the U.S., certain states celebrate it a lot more passionately. And then when is it celebrated? It's got it says the last Monday in May. So it's always on a Monday. And then how do people celebrate it? Well, it's at the beginning of summer. People start opening up their pools. They go on road trips. They have cookouts. It's very lighthearted. That's how we can tell the tone. And let's kind of buzz through the last ones. What they do locally, like the Springfield Mile here in Springfield, and the Boy Scouts go on this long walk, which is not far from where I live. And then how people celebrate it locally continued. They talked about Camp Butler Cemetery. And what it means to Abby, and then what it means again to Abby, and then what it means to Kendall, and what it means to Kendall there. And then there's a wrap-up slide, because remember, we have to have at least 20 slides for this visual aid. So that one will be posted to your lesson plans and Google Classroom as a sample for you. And now I'm just going to show you, but not give this one to you. Dia de los Muertos is just a little bit different of a holiday, but you're still welcome to be researching this one. But they go through what the introduction is, and they give some history, the Aztec history and the Catholic and the Spanish history, and tell where it's celebrated. But notice that it's a very picture-heavy visual aid. So I'm just clicking around here to show you how beautiful it is and show you some of the symbols which are very popular. So consider this as one of your holidays that you could talk about, okay? But it is still available. So with that, folks, we wrap it up. And I want you to look at the list of these 28 holidays. And then when you have picked out 5, go to your Google form and tell me your top 5. And that will end it for today, okay? Signing off, everybody. See you later.